welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news, discussion, and of course a whole lot of opinions about Brandon's works and the Cosmere. I'm Verónica, though I almost said Eric, and joining me is Marvin.
Hey, I'm Paleo.
And also Alla.
Hi, I'm Rasarr.
And I'm Cheyenne Sedai. Today we're talking about With the Truth preview chapters up through 13, so spoilers for those. This is day one, basically. Marvin, do you want to explain why you and Phil aren't doing Winden previews?
Yeah, so it turns out doing a video every week when both of us are working and have a busy schedule and are in completely different time zones, like 8 or 9 hours apart, it's not too easy to produce a video. It would always take me staying up super late or getting up super early for us to catch each other at the time when the chapters were out and we were both available for recording. So this year we've decided not to do any preview show, and instead you get this where a few of us are talking about more of a batch of these chapters, and Fed, unfortunately, or Danielle, she doesn't have a lot of time anymore. So all right now at least. So you will see her eventually again, I'm sure, but not for these, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we're going to do day 2 at some point as well. It's going to be a little bit weird because previews end just before the book releases. And for the Americans, there's Thanksgiving and also traveling to Dragonsteel. And so we'll figure out what we'll do there. But we would probably do day 2, which is what we're assuming is the rest of previews as well. Yeah, so I guess we can start with a brief summary, even though I assume all of you guys have read the chapters.
Yep. So this is pretty much just the first day, like you said in the name of the part, day 1, before the great duel between Dalinar and Odium, Taravangian Odium. So we've got 2 POV sections, so that are just switching between them. So first up, we have, of course, Kaladin. Kaladin is in Urithiru, and he is getting ready to depart Urithiru because he and Zeph and Nightblood and Syl are on a mission to provide therapy to Ishar, basically.
Pretty much.
So Kaladin, of course, gets his mission from Dalinar, learns he's going to be spending his next few 9 days with Zeph, says his farewells to pretty much everyone in his life, his family. He spent some time with his little brother, Bridge 4, and he gets equipped for the journey. Syl is being weird a little bit. And eventually the 4 of them depart for Azir, where he meets up with Shallan and Adolin, who are just back from their side of the plotline. And then Kaladin says his next series of goodbyes to them this time, and he and Zeph will be setting up on a high storm to Shinovar. And meanwhile, on the Shallan side of things, we of course have Shallan and Adolin still in lasting integrity, since this is happening right after Rhythm of War. They say their farewells with Kalak, who tells them that Badom Ishram has been trapped in the spiritual realm. And they depart for Azimir to basically report and get their new mission, which will be to find and possibly release Badom Ishram to fix the whole Dead Eyes issues, since we now know that Dead Eyes have been caused by Badom Ishram being trapped. On the way there, they are attacked by the Fused, and Shallan learns that she has now leveled up as a Night Radiant and can make physical illusions and can call Creation's Friend to her, which she uses to repel the attack from the Fused. But after repelling it, the group finds out that the Fused are using Shadesmar to bring an entire army towards Azimir, and the Azimir Oathgeist Spren have been corrupted by Syanat so that they will let the army through. So Azimir is going to be our next big battlefield for this book. So of course they arrive in Azimir. They say their farewells to Kaladin and set up to to visit Urifiru and report what's happened. And that's it. That's day 1 of our 9.
Yep. Not very long.
Yeah, a lot has happened, or I guess a lot will happen in these 9 or 10 days, given the size of the book that Bren has reported. Like, yeah, almost 500,000
Yeah, this
words.
was a lot of setup, really.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So I guess we can start with Kaladin.
Yeah.
Because he's been feeling notably different since the end of Rhythm of War.
Yeah, he's had his like big psychological catharsis moment at the end of the last book, and it feels like he's reached some kind of mental milestone for his mental state and well-being.
Yeah, I agree. This feels like the natural outcome of his plot or character arc in Rhythm of War, that he has come to terms with his depression, I guess, so that it's like not a constant law for him, but he can realize or can recognize that he will have good days, as he says, that there will be good days, and he has to remember them, and that hopefully will bridge him through the worst days. But it's also like he acknowledges that like he isn't cured or anything, like he still has to work through it and is affected by it. So
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It feels like even though he's feeling noticeably better, that it isn't like a magical, like complete 180 in terms of like his depression. Like he's still dealing with it, and he's learning how to do it and inventing therapy and all this. But
doesn't know the
like,
word
he's doing
for it
better,
yet.
but it's not constant and it's not perfect. And he acknowledges that that's life, that it doesn't have to be one extreme or the other.
Yeah. And he is like, speaking of like coming to terms with things, he is also coming to terms with the fact that he's not really a soldier any longer. Because like he doesn't lead the breach for now. Like that's Sigzil's job right now. And he's not strictly in the military structure. And he also, Dalinar wants him to be the next Colin High Prince. Sorry, no, not Colin High Prince. He wants him to be the King of Urifiru, which
King of Urifiru, yeah.
Which, like, remember those memes from back in, like, Wars of Radiance, where people were joking, like, Adolin is Dalinar's favorite son?
Yeah.
Adolin clearly...
Really is,
We even get like sections when Kaladin is wondering if Adolin and Renarin are his brothers now.
Yeah, the amount of memes of like, you know, the meme of like the mother like lifting the child in the pool, and the other one drowning, and then the other one like all the way down to the skeleton. There's been so many of those with Kaladin and Adolin and Renarin. It's so funny.
It's also fun that Shallan later on thinks of like Navani and Dalinar as like the first time she's felt like she's actually had parents, because they like offer her the Colin name as well and offer her place in the line of succession. So like all one big happy family, I guess.
Listen, Dalinar and Navani are just making sure that every Radiant is part of the Colin family.
Not just the Colin family, or like for Kaladin, it's not just the Colin family. He also has his own family, and I really like the little Orodan scene where we had like still played with him with the blocks, and it was really cute. Adorable. So I like seeing these little, I guess, slice of life moments almost that we like. It's nice to see that.
Yeah, it's very like calm before the storm moment. Like
exactly,
you get
that's
like
what it feels like.
Yeah. But yeah, so Kaladin is branching out into new professions, like, and Wit is like also there to like help guide him there.
Yeah, wants to make him a musician, right? He wants him to learn the flute.
Yes. So Wit, of course, gets to guide Kaladin a little bit along that new path, by teaching him how to play the flute and educating him about how the secret is a terrible basis of faith. Which, so like the passions. I'm not sure if any of our viewers here are familiar with the secret. You are happy people if you are not, happier people if you aren't. But it's basically like a real life ideology of like, if you want something hard enough, the universe will bring it to you. And the passions are clearly based on that. And with refuting the passion is, refutation of that, which is nice because it's nonsense.
Yeah. And this isn't the first magic system philosophy I've come across in books that are kind of based on that. They're you have to want something and really want something for something to happen. And well, I've seen it though. It has big consequences when things don't turn out the right way, because you end up blaming people whose fault it isn't. It's bad.
Yeah, but I
it
think
was a nice conversation with it.
In the concept or in the context of the Cosmere, it actually makes sense to have a religion based around that, because you have things that are based on manifesting them and actually perceiving stuff the way you want it to be, and then it becomes that way, right? So it's just like I said, it makes sense in the context of the magic system and everything you have there, but of course, as Hoyt says, it's still utter nonsense, because people take it to extremes that just because you think it would happen doesn't mean it will happen. You need actual magic for that, and the average show doesn't have access to that.
It's interesting that it kind of dovetails with Odium's philosophy of let go of responsibility. It's not your fault, because that's blame someone else for your troubles, because that's kind of what the passions is. If you it's not your fault that other people are suffering. They simply didn't want things hard enough. That's the kind of thinking. So it's not directly 1-to-1, but it's kind of similar philosophy.
Yeah. It was really funny that at the end of that scene, Dalinar was like, "Wait, are you done?" And Kaladin thought he was waiting for Dalinar to finish with the meeting, and Dalinar was actually waiting for Wit.
Classic Hoyd.
Kind of funny. Yeah, pretty much.
But something interesting or not interesting but concerning that Wit and Kaladin also talk about is how they all think this is their final meeting. And Hoyt almost says maybe both of them are going to die, which is seeing that from Hoyt is wow.
Well,
we know Hoyt doesn't die, but still.
Yeah.
He does show up in Era 2 and in Yumi, so yeah.
Yeah,
I sincerely hope Brandon doesn't kill off Kaladin, because killing off a suicidal character is iffy.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a narratively good choice anyway. Brian over on the 17th Shard, Golden Devil, has articulated this better than I have in the past, but it just Kaladin's journey has been of acceptance and of finding that he's worth it, and life is worth living, and finding his family again. That's it. It isn't all hopeless. And him sacrificing himself at the end of Wind and Truth, because presumably that's what it's gonna be if he dies, makes no sense for the character arc he's been on.
Yeah,
some others of the shocking deaths, Elokar, and even Teft kind of make a bit more sense. But for Kaladin, it just goes completely counter to what his character arc is. And I hope for the love of God that even with all the death flags flying, because there's been a lot of them in these chapters, that Brandon doesn't kill Kaladin. I want him to have that drink with Adolin and Shallan that they promised each other. Please.
Yeah. Yeah, he is saying farewells to everyone in this day one. He attends a farewell party for Bridge 4 too.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense narratively to have all of these concerns, because for these characters in 10 days everything could be over. I don't know what I would do or say if I knew Armageddon was looming basically in 10 days. I don't. So it makes sense for him to be, or for all of them to be concerned. But it's a lot. Sometimes that we get a lot of these. Okay, we have to visit every character now and have to say their farewells. And I mean, it's nice to see all of these interactions, but it's a lot of the same as well in some way, because Bridge 4 is mostly they're all not the same but very similar, because they're all soldier types.
So, of course, aside from the farewells, there's also other important conversation. and that, like, as we've mentioned before, you're getting adopted, Kaladin. Your parents are both still alive, but you are getting adopted. Congratulations on your second dad.
Yep.
Oh god. And more than just getting adopted, you're getting adopted so that you are like in the line of succession for kingship of Urithiru.
Yes, Dalinar has successfully ignored one of his sons and pissed off his other son. So I guess he now has to like outsource inheritance.
I mean, Renarin said that he had he saw in the future that he shouldn't be holding that power, and I mean, and it also again makes sense. Like he has a corrupted spren. Like, do you want somebody like that when you don't fully understand it in charge? In the charge of the Radiance.
This is actually such a good excuse. Like, if Renarin doesn't want something, he can just say he saw in the future that it's going to turn out.
Yeah, I know. It's great.
Yeah, he just wants to be happy with Relaine somewhere and like live his happy life and doesn't actually want to deal with anything. So I saw a vision that, I don't know, I shouldn't bring out the trash right now because something horrible might happen.
Dalinar, you need to fund my and Relaine's honeymoon or else the war will end.
Although I think Dalinar would do that anyway. Or like he wants to mend some bridges with his sons, but yeah.
Hopefully.
Oh yeah.
Let's see how that goes with Adolin when Adolin gets back. But you know, that's a bit more of a fraught relationship than with Renarin, I think.
And I like that gets addressed finally. Like we saw some of that somehow in the books that like your dad just admitted to like killing your mother in like more or less cold, I guess really hot blood, I guess, because of the thrill and everything. But like
true.
Yeah, that's and like went to the Night Watcher to forget all about it, and then that just didn't come up really in Rhythm of War. So it is nice that like the characters are aware that should be an issue for them.
The other thing that we found out in this whole conversation is what the rest of the line of succession looks like. So since both Adolin and Renarin have said no, and we know from a later Shallan chapter that she'd say no because Adolin is saying no, goes Kaladin, and then a new character that we haven't heard of before. His name is Damian. He's a Stone Ward. Yes, I don't know why I was going to say Stone Watcher. He's a Stone Ward. And people just went crazy over this information. Like, he just reached the 4th ideal. So I guess that's what Dalinar's logic is.
The Stoneward characters in these books are just like the most background people ever. Like there is like one of them in Rhythm of War. Like, was it Zu or was her spren's name Zu?
No, her name was Zu.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think she's like the one named Stoneward that has any presence in this book. But like,
that is tone.
We only know all we know about the Stonewards is like they're there and they're like doing stuff in the background, and suddenly surprised they are important for like one sentence or two, and then they just go back to
one
the
of them
background.
reached the 4th ideal. Like, how come one of them reached the 4th ideal and we have never heard of them before?
I personally actually kind of like that. That there would be.
I think
like,
it's cool.
Yeah,
but
it's cool, and like this world, it makes the world feel a little bigger than like just these characters that we usually interact with, and like it's
just surprising.
It is surprising, but I say this a lot this episode, but it makes sense that there would be people out in the world that like progress through like. They might not even be consciously saying like, oh, I've won my 3rd ideal now, better go tell people about this. They might just have naturally progressed through their Oaths already so much, and because Radiants are popping up all over the place, and they just like hadn't had a chance or are like in the middle of a war zone, and so getting to all these Radiants in Urithiru isn't necessarily easy or an option for some of them. So I kind of like that I don't like that we don't hear anything about it. Like, I would have liked, because he was in this campaign for Emul or whatever, and like was an important character there, and like we haven't heard anything about that. But
like he's maybe appeared in Dalinar's and Yasna's like Emul Rhythm of War chapters.
Yeah, it would be nice to like, even like in one of the last chapters of Rhythm of War, to like mention in like a Yasna chapter that they have another 4th level Radiant, because like that would be about when Dami would be swearing his ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you've got the designated protagonist orders in like
for sure.
and Lightweavers and Bondsmiths, and then you have the designated like evil orders in Skybreakers and Dustbringers, and then you have the dedicated background guys in Stormwoods.
Yeah. And like Will Shapers even.
Yeah, like even though they had their own book, like Venli wasn't the main character of her own book.
It works differently for her because she's a singer, right? So like you can't even compare it.
Yeah.
So speaking of character relationships, how about that Saladin, eh?
Yeah. Bren is laying it out really thick in these chapters, yeah.
Yes, we are getting like the speedrun version of relationship setup.
Yep.
Let's say it.
Okay, I think you can tell that's me, and I think Verónica as well are not the biggest fans of this shit.
Yeah, we are.
I
just feel rushed. Like if Brandon was gonna do it, because if he was gonna do it, he has to do it well, is my thing. But it doesn't feel like he's doing it well. Like it feels that it came out a bit out of nowhere. Like it literally like, upped the ante from 0 to 100 between Rhythm of War and Winged in Truth. Like, especially since it's only been like a day. If it had been from Oathbringer to Rhythm of War, I'd get it more. It's been a year in between, but it's been like a day here. Like, why is Still suddenly acting so different? Makes no sense. I wouldn't have as much of a problem if it were a little bit better paced and like more chill and transitioned, foreshadowing. But that's not what's happening here.
The suddenness might be explainable by like, okay, he's at the 4th oath now, and maybe like that boosts something in the pen.
It's raging, honestly.
I totally agree that it's like super out of nowhere. Like, if you wanted to explain that way, I think for at least for like Syl, you could try and explain that way. For Kaladin, like how he's like, he also like talks a lot more about like, oh, she's doing this and that, and like thinks about it or about her in a way that is more amenable to Saladin than before. So I don't know.
Yeah, just to be clear to any of our viewers who do ship Saladin, like ship who you want. Yeah. It's like you can ship whoever with whoever, and like we're not telling you this is a bad ship or like you are a terrible immoral person if you ship that, or you know, that kind of nonsense. Like ship who you want. It's not my cup of tea, and you know, we all three think that it's not well written in the actual book, but like Brandon has never been a good romance writer, let's be real.
Good romance writer, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he wrote like one good romance in one of the secret projects, and like none of that got carried over to his Saladin writing.
It would be really surprising at this point if like this is just like he's misleading us with this, and like there's actually nothing that they won't end up together. Like that would be I kind of could, weird. It would feel very weird, but I could almost see it, that it's like it's actually what Bren intended was just like that Syl becomes more human in a way, but like not in a love interest way maybe. But I don't expect it to go that way, but I could see it going that way, and I would feel that find it very weird as well. I just like, and I'm not sure how I personally feel about the ship itself. Like, it's sort of, it makes sense in some way because they spend a lot of time together, and like it's sort of the expected relationship almost, even if it's between a magical entity and like a guy. But I don't know. For those two,
like of all the like female characters in this series, Syl was the only one that had any kind of like chance with Kaladin, let's be real.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like, here's the thing that also kind of bothers me. The idea that every character kind of needs to be paired up and that nobody can just be happy the way they are if they don't have a romantic partner. Like, Kaladin has never really had a strong romantic connection to anyone, I felt in the books, even with that like fleeting crush on Shallan that we'll get to when we get to that scene. It didn't feel genuine, really. It felt more of like just getting feelings confusing, kind of like idolizing her for the very problematic way that she dealt with her trauma because she kept smiling. Didn't really feel like romantic tension, and Kellen has never felt that way to me.
Yeah.
So this also kind of feels off, and I just don't like that idea in general in fiction that everybody has to be paired up at the end of a series or at the end of an arc, because that also isn't what happens in real life a lot of the time.
It also doesn't help that we know Kaladin has had relationships before, like Lynn, Terra as well, but we've never seen these on the page. And I agree that like I don't think he needs to be paired up with anyone by the end. It would be fine if he like just ends up happy by himself.
Like, I think like part of the reason why I don't really like this Saladin Pash is that as someone who isn't really, do romantic relationships, I really liked having a character who also doesn't feel like he needs to have romantic relationships. So I suppose it's a bit of disappointment factor here. But also Brandon just isn't writing this well.
Yeah, it's both things.
Yes,
for sure.
Like, okay.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, we must. The library scene.
Yep.
Let's talk about the library scene.
Just put like a sketch chord here, like dun dun dun. Yes, so the library scene. This might be the single cringiest scene that Brandon has written.
And I think that tops like Boots in both the Wheel of Time and in Stormlight, because there's been Boots scenes in both.
Oh dear.
Yeah. I can't think of anything else that's really like.
It felt like one of those posts on Reddit that ends with "and then everyone clapped."
Yeah.
It's just the whole setup is just so out of nowhere. Like, we wanted to show that Kaladin cares about Syl, I guess, but like clearly the last 4 books haven't set it up enough. Like, what's...
It's so weird.
Yeah, I think we were both just we all were kind of in disbelief at this scene.
Yeah, I'm trying to process what to even say about it, because it felt so weird. First of all, let's start here with the easiest thing. Kaladin knows what a library is.
Yes.
We
Can we please bring up the quote? I think you looked it up.
Let me put up the quote. So we know that Kaladin definitely knows what a library, and thus almost certainly also what the librarian is. Just like without even quoting anything, he would have been sent to Carbranth to like become a surgeon. He's he's a Dark Eyes maybe, or was a Dark Eyes, but he's a well-educated Dark Eyes. Like his father made sure of that. He definitely would know what a library and a librarian is. He wouldn't call it book quartermaster. And we don't like, even if like we didn't think about what he should know and just look at the book. We have in Oathbringer chapter 7. We have one of the soldiers says, "Up the stairs, sir. Library is empty." And Kaladin just acknowledges that. "Excellent. Join me up there, man." So he definitely knows what a library is, and he knows the term. It makes no sense that like we need to play this for a cheap joke where Kaladin is a soldier, he doesn't know.
It's a bad joke.
Yeah, it's a really bad
joke. It's not even a good joke.
Especially because it's like a joke. Kaladin is from lower class. He doesn't know what a high class thing like a library is.
Oh my god, yes.
Like, which is, first of all, it's stupid. Second of all, it's insulting. Third of all, Kaladin knows what a library is. He's not even like a lower class. He was like an upper class Dark Eyes.
Upper class Dark Eyes, yeah.
Whatever second or third
You would have gone to study at the most prestigious library in the world, in Kharbranth. It's not a random library like in his hometown. No, it's the most prestigious library in the world.
And then, of course, he goes white knighting for Syl, which it feels like the moment like he steps into the library, Kaladin is so out of character for the rest of the chapter.
Yeah, and this isn't justifying what the librarian said to Syl, because that wasn't right either. Like, she was saying some really messed up things that were uncalled for. But Kaladin did feel out of character in the way he responded to that.
Yeah, which the fact that we have it's been a year since Spren started actively talking to people, and we apparently already have anti-Spren racists is such a weird choice.
Yeah, the entire premise of the scene, I don't understand. Like, why would Syl is a female presenting Spren, or she's a woman Spren, right? So she would be allowed to read in their society in the first place. So that shouldn't be an issue. True, yeah, she's at least wearing a glove. So
also the Radiants are the structure behind all of Eurythir. Why wouldn't the Radiants be respected in this way? Why wouldn't the Spren that give them their powers be respected? It feels weird.
Yeah.
I don't get the logic behind why she was being discriminating towards Syl. Especially Kaladin of all people. Kaladin is the most famous Radiant. People have to know about Syl.
Yeah, I could understand if she was a little annoyed at Syl because just Syl's character is so quirky and everything, but she seemed to actively dislike her and discriminate against her, which is just and this entire chapter in my mind doesn't need to exist because Kaladin knows what a library is. We didn't need the stupid Chal between her legs joke. What was that? And it entirely feels made up to further have Syl's and Kaladin's relationship, to show that they care, or that they care about each other, I guess. Maybe also in a romantic way.
There are other ways of doing that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. This whole chapter could have been just summed up with Kaladin is waiting for Syl and she brings him the book.
Yeah. And also, especially in a book this long where they were struggling to cut down words.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of this scene? This book is already excessively long. Sorry, I love the joke of 500,000 words. But come on, you were legitimately struggling to get it into the pages that Tor had given you, the absolute max they could do. Just scrap the entire scene and quick summary in the last chapter and the next chapter, and it'll be fine.
Of course, we need to show, because we are speedrunning Syladin, I guess we need to show that Kaladin is a big, strong man who protects his woman.
That's the other thing. It just frustrates me so much.
Okay.
Especially because under most circumstances, with Rhythm of War, a lot of people were this is unnecessarily long. They didn't like the science scenes. And I was on the side of the science scenes serve to develop lots of things, and Raboniel and Navani's dynamic was interesting. And now I'm well, I can't do that here. And I'm normally defending Brandon for these choices, and yes, these books are long, but they're intentionally so, and all these types of things, and I'm
I think this is
disappointed.
This is a case where Brandon was adamant about I want to keep this stupid or these stupid jokes because there's multiple jokes in this set are not necessary. That he wanted to keep them in. People probably told him, maybe cut this. This isn't necessary. Or because Kaladin knows that a library is a library and not a place, a quarter for books, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is a general problem I have a little bit with that is self-imposed by the structure of the book, that we have deal with the same set of characters for one day for 10 days. That we at least for this very first day, that we only have 2 viewpoints with Shallan and Kaladin, because either like cut this and make the book shorter, I guess, or like bring a little bit more diversity and show some other people's viewpoints as well. And so we don't have to dwell too long on just these two people all the time, which I'm assuming it will get better and everything, and like it will be more varied, of course, because we have a lot more characters to go through in the upcoming parts or days. But I think that this is like sort of the source of this problem, that like, or part of the source that just because of structure, he kind of has to do it this way.
Because day one is so much set up, like in general. It's like Kaladin preparing to go to Shinovar, Shallan and Adolin coming back. Like Shallan and Adolin have had a lot of like magic stuff going on that keeps their chapters, in my opinion, more interesting than Kaladin's have been so far. But not a lot is actually happening.
Yes.
So far.
You know, we could have spent more time with Zeph instead of the library scene.
Like,
he is supposed to be our big protagonist for this book, but we see him, like, we hear more from Nightblood than we do from Zeph.
Yeah. I haven't thought about that, but yeah, we do.
And
yeah, we can talk about Zeph, but there isn't much to talk about Zeph.
like in the like when Dallin are speaking to Kaladin has this big reaction of like, that's who I'm going with. Like, I would like to know what Zeth feels about Kaladin, you know, considering especially their history and how Kaladin kind of killed Zeth by letting him like stay in the storm since that threat happened.
There is a version of Words of Radiance where he actually did kill Zeth.
Yeah, exactly.
So depending on what Seth remembers.
Yeah, I am hoping that like they will have Zeph POVs.
Yeah, and you viewers will know this already by the time this comes out, because we will have day 2 already by then. So.
Yeah, the first day 2 chapter comes out like tomorrow. Unless we get tomorrow. Interludes.
Yeah.
Oh, we might get interludes. Yeah,
we probably will. I hope so. I think we did. Oh, well, I guess we didn't get any interludes. Or did we get interludes at the end of
we
part
did get
1?
a reading of we got a reading
of Syl.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So I think we've complained sufficiently to express our opinions. So let's move, because there is one more topic that we haven't really brought up so far, and that's of course the wind, which is now apparently talking to Kaladin and urging him to like keep going and like finish the job.
Yeah.
So who do you think the wind is, or what do you think the wind is?
I think so. I guess we can also like say that it gets heavily mentioned in the interludes and the epigraphs for these chapters, which are from the book Wind and Truth, or Knights of Wind and Truth in World, where someone, which we can also talk about later on, talks about the wind, and he said they say it's a spren, right? Like that seems pretty clear to me, and also the way Witch talks about it in their conversations, like one of the ancient spren that like precedes Odium, I guess Odium as well, but honor and cultivation arriving on Rosha. So sort of like the Stormfather was the rider of storms, presumably before those came along. So something along those lines.
Yeah, so we know it's like a female, or at least uses a feminine voice.
Yeah, and like even before we got the actual pronouns, to me it read as very female coded, like the voice that we got.
Interesting. I was like, okay, so like there is the moment where he like thinks it might be Syl talking to him. And I think that's what first clued people in that it's a feminine voice, at least for a lot of people. Not sure if it was the same for you. But for some reason, for the longest time, I was convinced that this was like a masculine voice. I don't know why. I have no explanation.
I mean, it was just genderless in my head, I guess. Like it didn't, because it was never mentioned as being either feminine or masculine. So it was like, maybe it sounds like Nightblood or whatever, which is sort of more androgynous, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. I definitely, it first clicked for me definitely when she was referred to by she, her pronouns by Wind and Truth, by the epigraphs. So
Remind me, as someone who's reread this more recently, do we ever get do the epigraphs ever explain why Wind started talking after the sibling woke up?
And the only thing they mention is that it apparently woke up after the after Terentian took over Odium. That's what triggered it, apparently. And there's talk about the other storm, because people were not thinking about the high storms or something anymore that much, or where there was another storm. It's I would have to go read it again because I don't remember the exact wording, but there was a talk about that the people even people forgot about the wind because they turned to worshipping the storm, which sort of I guess makes sense with because Honor took over, I guess, and invested in the storm further. So that became a more important aspect of the world, and so the wind, which is very adjacent to a storm, I would say, sort of got ranked down a little bit.
Yeah. So do we think that Rays as Odium was suppressing wind or something like that?
Oh, interesting.
Because if Taravangian taking over was the catalyst for Wind starting to talk again, so what's the connection here?
Yeah, that would be really interesting, especially if since the Wind predates the shards, maybe they have a power that isn't easily that could be a problem for Rays if the Wind started communicating with people. So I see that as the reason why if the suppression theory you're presenting is what happened, that seems plausible to me.
So an idea that came to my mind actually when I was rereading these was that we have the Unmade, and they apparently have for example, Iron has deep connection to Spren and Singers and bonds in general, it seems on Rosha. So, and they are the Unmade, so they have to have been unmade from something that has existed before, right? They are corrupted in some form, or I don't know, unmade, whatever that means. So my idea was that maybe because Rays as Odium presumably unmade these, presumably Spren at some point. I wonder almost if because there's also mention of the Night Watcher formerly was one of these ancient Spren, that there were a lot of ancient big Spren, I guess, that were forces of nature almost, or more directly forces of nature than these Spren are anyway, I guess. That those were the ones that were unmade. And so we have Biomission, for instance, Shardcast and whatever. The Wind Spren just got spared from that for some reason, and so they were in hiding, or she was in hiding or something for whatever, not for whatever reason, but to not be unmade. Maybe that is why that now the vessel has changed, and so she thinks, okay, he doesn't remember or he doesn't know that we can be unmade or something like that, or that we were the source of the unmade, so I can talk to people again.
Yeah, I can see that. We do also know from the epigraphs that Wind is not here to stay, because it's mentioned, I think, once or twice in the epigraph that Wind is going to vanish.
Yeah, and the heralds apparently. But
and the heralds. Yeah, should we move on to discussing the epigraph then?
Oh yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
because so the epigraphs are interesting because they are clearly written after the fact, and they mention that they talk about the Wind. And they mentioned that she vanishes at some point after all is said and done. And the heralds also vanish. And interestingly, the epigraphs also mention that, to quote, "This should not surprise anyone who has familiarity with a Spren, though such things are less common now than they once were," which means that people are speaking with Spren less as well. Which, what do we think the reason is because there are fewer Spren or because there is less communication?
I think something might have happened when they freed Biodomishram, because we know Biodomishram is so connected to the Spren that And it feels like such a big plot point in this book that, I mean, I don't know what exactly, but I do think that freeing bioemission must have had some effect that eventually causes Spren to like be like more reserved or like less numerous or something.
I'm not sure whether it has anything to do with bioemission. So the Epigraphs, they don't really talk about bioemission, right? They talk only about the Corners of Champions and this quest. And so that makes me wonder whether like something that happens in Shinovar is causing whatever causes the Spren and the wind to not, the wind itself vanishes somehow, but the Spren just become less common or something like that. So we do have on the Isla Stile actually the quote that like from the singers in this case, our pity destroyed us, for the betrayal extended even to our gods, to Spren, stone, and wind. Something like maybe because the Shin are maybe a little closer to like the original religion or whatever that happened that was on Rosha before the humans took everything over. Maybe something is connected there, but I don't know.
Actually, I wonder if it's Ishar, because we know that Ishar is the one who imposed the structure of oaths on the Knights Radiant. So I wonder if he also would have the power to break the system, so that like it would make, because like the fact that like the epigraphs talk about how it was once common for people to know, that it was once more common for people to interact with the Spren, but we know that this is kind of recent, only it's only really happening because there are Knights Radiant showing up. So maybe what happens is Ishar does something to break the system so that Knights Radiant are no longer being made, for lack of a better term.
I guess maybe the only thing there is that like that would mean that in the future people also like don't have any other means of going to the cognitive realm, right? Because Spren are there and you can interact with Spren in the cognitive realm. So I guess this poses the question, like, who wrote these epigraphs, right?
Yeah, that's a question, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
And when?
Because there's been a lot of theories, but a lot of those theories have been debunked by later epigraphs. So people were saying maybe Kaladin or Zeth themselves, maybe Sigzil, even Syl was proposed. And I think all of those have been debunked.
It can't be Dalinar, because Dalinar knew about their quest. It's probably... Do we think Jasnah doesn't know that they are heading to Shinovar?
That just feels weird to me. Like, Dalinar, I feel like, would have informed Jasnah.
Yeah, even if Dalinar is like too like caught up in his own nonsense to tell her, like she and Wit are like together. Like, do you think Wit wouldn't tell her?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I like she just in general, like the way Jasnah is, like she wants to know everything, what is going on, and she would get to know somehow. Like there's no way she wouldn't.
It can't be Navani either, because like Dalinar would definitely tell Navani.
Yeah. What other like philosophers do we have that fits?
I guess what do we know about them? We know they're historian and philosopher.
We know that they.
The wind spoke to them as a child.
Yes. Which is like a big thing.
We know that they are alive during the events of Wind and Truth, because they were not aware of their mission, which means that they had to be alive at the time to not know about it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So like it's not going to be a child of one of the characters. Like
Renarin would have known, because Renarin was at the farewell.
So for one, I think it's so they certainly have to survive till past I think at least to the back half, because or at least like immediately after Wind and Truth at the very least. I don't know, like we don't know what happens in between those two, but I personally think it might be a child at this point, like that is just not aware of anything, because for one they heard the wind as a child. This author, which means that they must have been a child at this point, because the wind only started talking to people again. apparently after, or became active again, at least, I guess, after the
Around this
vessel
time.
change, right? Or at least, yes, around, because Kaladin technically already heard the wind interact like before with the flute playing and whatever that Wit mentions. So at least in recent times is when the wind started talking to people again. So that limits it, I think, to someone who's pretty young.
What if it's like that little brat from the end of Rhythm of War, like Adin or whatever his name was?
Why did you have to bring him up?
Sorry, just the moment you said that this may be a child right now.
True, yeah. Or
But
maybe
yes, to be honest,
doesn't track either. Like, this does not sound like Lift whatsoever.
Yeah,
And
no.
they say like they refer to the edge dancers as like the edge dancers instead of like as an in group. So
maybe it could be like Yanagon, like the Prima K6.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe that's interesting. Huh.
Like they like teaching him how to be like scholarly and stuff, and like so.
Yeah.
He would have
I like that.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if like who is the author of the Knights of Wind and Truth is something that's going to stay a mystery until at least the back half.
Yeah. Either that or like we get hints at most, like that we could figure it out, but like it isn't outright set, and like only if you spend significant amounts of time, which we will, you could figure it out. But yeah.
I'll bring up the theory that people had that maybe it was L, but also it doesn't match voice-wise to me from the final case for some reason, and like the wind speaking to them as a child, like that's weird.
I guess that would have to be like as a child before it stopped speaking the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but I didn't want to like forget that because people have brought it up as a theory.
Yeah, it does read more like a human to me, just like. I mean, I already know how humans talk, so. But yeah, it I don't know. It doesn't feel like a singer POV for me. But yeah, who knows? I could certainly be a singer as well. But I kind of like. I have a feeling that it is a main character from the back half that does not play a huge role yet.
Yeah,
that seems like the sort of thing that Bren would do.
Yeah, I don't think it's any of the major characters that we have so far.
What should be like Shalash?
It should be somebody we don't know. Like, who knows?
What should be like Shalash? She I mean, she doesn't count as a major character at this point. Like, she's been basically just Talon's nurse for the last book.
But they talk about the heralds vanishing, right? So, like, she wouldn't talk about them in the third person. So
that is true.
I kind of like the idea because, like, she was a child when they came to Rosha, but yeah, I don't think it works out.
Yeah. Speaking of, do we think the heralds are dead, or they just left, or like, why did they vanish?
I don't know, because the back half supposedly like will have books, one from Talon and one from Ash. Like, I don't think we're getting another like Ash and I situation with the flashbacks, especially not 2 books in a row, which these are meant to be. So I don't think they're dead. At least I don't think all of them are dead. Some may have died. I mean, Jazrian died, you know. But I don't think that every single one of them is dead.
Yeah, I think so too.
As a follow-up question, if they are not dead, do you think they are still like cognitive shadows bound by the Oath Pact?
I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen with the Oath Pact this book.
Yeah.
Because you have the Shard thing, you have the contest of champions, you have the theories that some of the main characters will take up those spots. I have too many questions around the Oath Pact to really think.
Same. Like, I honestly, I feel like the phrasing of vanishing makes it sound to me like they definitely still are around somewhere, so not dead. At least those that didn't like get killed. And maybe it's like they figure out how to get them off planet, and so the heralds go, yeah, goodbye. We are done. We are done with this system. we'll go as far as we can. And I guess if we get actual Shalash and Talon viewpoints from either both of them or only one of them, and one of them might be dead or something, that they might stick around and like maybe come back at some point because they feel, oh, we actually have to help out these people. Like they really need us right now. But I feel like, yeah.
Because imagine if we get to the Shalash book and she just spends the entire book hanging out on Scadrial.
I mean, yeah, she can fall from the sky, and then we have Ash falling from the sky again. So.
Oh, imagine like the first chapter of like the Mistborn era 3. Ash fell from the sky. It's Shalash, and she's bungee jumping.
Yeah. 10 out of 10. Love it.
Oh god. No, yeah, actually, I would like that. That would be a peak first line for that book.
Okay, so I think we have officially run out of stuff to talk about in the epigraphs.
Yes. I have one question just to ask, like, do we think we will get more Wind and Truth, Nights of Wind and Truth excerpts, or do we think this is the only we will get?
I think we might get more because usually it's like we get 5 parts for each book, and so we get 5 like sources for the epigraphs. And since now we have like 10 days, so I think it would make sense for her to have like one source for 2 days.
Yeah, it might not be right away. It might be like later in the book, like you know how the battles have come back. But I think that it's likely that we get at least a little bit more, especially since there's so many open questions.
Yeah. Okay. I think the same. So I just wanted to check if everyone agreed.
So we've talked about Kaladin. We've talked about the epigraphs. We should maybe talk about the other half of the chapters.
Important.
Maybe. Yeah. So Shallan, and things are going on with her.
Yes.
There's a lot.
While Kaladin was having parties, Shallan was studying the blade.
Yeah. And I guess just like, so we were wondering, I think, after Rhythm of War, whether she had sworn another oath there or another truce at the end. And I guess we now get it confirmed that she did technically, but not really. So
she has like a delayed activation oath.
Yeah. Yeah. So she does swear her 4th ideal now, or like says her 4th truth and means it.
Like we got the whole veil scene at the end of Rhythm of War, and here we get her repeating the whole "I am terrified" and expounding on it. That was originally in Way of Kings, and like obviously the question of Shallan's oaths and the timeline, super complicated, and nobody has been able to figure it out. I remember very clearly watching the Shallan episode that we did after Rhythm of War, and people just being super confused on the timeline. And I think like Joff laid out what we knew, like from the Roshar like map with the timeline that we have, but there's still a lot of holes in there, especially with the oaths. And like, does she have to re-swear her oaths to Testament? How do they interact? When, like, what is it that's triggered the 4th ideal?
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean that she repeated an oath of, like, I am terrified? There's so much here.
Yeah, but she does get, like, a cool power-up with the... I like that we first got, like, the tease with the creation spren that, like, she just so happens to pick up the spheres that she needs, because it turns out those are not... she's not, like, coincidentally picking up. It's like the creation spren are, like... The creation spren are becoming the objects she needs for this particular moment. So it's not luck, it's protagonist powers.
It's armor spren staying close to you. So
yeah. And I do like, I think like the gag with the creation spren not knowing how to be a good armor for her.
They're great.
Was like the funniest part of this of the day one thing, was like the funniest gag there. Plus, of course, because Shallan has 2 swords now, I also like Adolin just tells like, don't try dual wielding when you can't even one wield.
Useful.
But it seems we are getting like the sword and board paladin Shallan for her like radiant setup.
Yeah, I think it would be really fun if she either like makes one of them like a dagger or something the shield makes more sense.
Yeah.
But the dagger is also like historically used as like an offhand weapon. Shout out to my friend that does HEMA that talks about this.
That is something I never really think about with the Knights Reign, that they all are they are knights, right? They are all technically combatants and are supposed to like really fight, because I think of like, yeah, she's an illusionist. She stays on the edges of the battlefield and like doesn't really actively participate, but she can, and she might need armor for that. And like, I mean, we've seen her plenty of times in the middle of the battlefield, but like in my mind, it still doesn't like she's a wizard or a mage or something that always keeps a little bit of distance, but they don't need to because they get fancy power armor. I also really like the creation sprint thing, and I think that they like don't know how to form the armor, and I like the contrast to Kaladin.
Kaladin, yes.
And it's all, I feel like it's not so much like the Windsprint probably didn't know either. Kaladin just like, he's a soldier, he knows what armor looks like, and soldier, so yeah. They had his mental image to go off of, so I like that little detail, yeah. And I like that they go like Shallan.
They're adorable.
Yeah, and Shallan's clothes just getting progressively wrecked by just the creations.
I love it. And like that little joke with like Radiant's hair that Shallan was like, oh, wouldn't it be just more like convenient to just have short hair? And I was like, please no, please no.
Short hair Shallan would be cute though.
Yeah.
So Shallan is getting power-ups, and she might still have more because so Shallan has like a lot of power-ups in these chapters, because like she has the creation sprint, she has the armor, she has 2 shard blades now, and she can also make her illusions physical.
Yeah, substantiation.
Yeah, substantiation, and she has like real identity stuff going on, right? Where she
and fortune,
Yeah, the fortune. So yeah, real identity stuff is when she like says "be Drehi" and then sucks up his stormlight, which is like, okay, cool. I guess she can do that now.
I need answers on the mechanics of that, and I'm not a mechanic, but I'm like, what is going on here?
So it's like she like assumes for a moment Drehi's like spiritual identity so that she can use Stormlight that is keyed to him.
Yeah,
I can see your eyes rolling in the back of your head.
I'm like, a little fun thing when I first read that, I was actually like, this is a typo or something, because like, it didn't register in my head like that she wouldn't be able to do this, and it was like, no, it should say by Drehi, right? Not be Drehi, but by, because she says like she was lashed by Drehi, and says for emphasis that she would repeat that for some reason. But okay, no, she actually is attempting to like be him and use his identity to use his Stormlight, which is like super OP. And I feel like she has 2 Spren, right? 2 bonds that causes a ton of weird stuff going on. I feel like this is definitely a side effect of that this is not a normal Lightweaver power.
She's basically like compounding Radianthood. Yeah, so just that is OP, and the fact that she can create physical illusions is also OP.
Yeah. I think it's very cool. It's just a lot, you know.
Yeah. Shallan gets like 10 levels in Night Radiant in this first few chapters.
Which is like really interesting, right? That we see like usually, I think that like this is a speed run to Oathsworn in any percent in a Stormlight book, because this is the earliest we've seen in any book get such
Funny
a power.
Enough, we know that the physical illusions are not about like the dual strength thing. We know that because it's part of the power sets in like, if you've been following the Stormlight RPG previews, then you already knew that Lightweavers could do physical illusions because it's one of like the powers in the rulebook.
And I think we actually get that in Oathbringer or something, where like she does some very slight stuff with her, and I guess when she has like Veil, when she manifests like Veil and Radiant, they can sort of touch a little bit, but it's not like on the level where like they could stab someone. So this definitely advanced, but it's odd that like this would be like the level of it might, I wonder how far a regular light weaver can go, because Abidai, the monarch, says, I thought your order had forbidden this, or like you people had forbidden this. So, like, how much is this just because honor isn't there anymore, because the oaths are different, because she has 2 spren? Again, lots of moving parts here, but yeah.
Like, if I were like from the perspective of someone who used to do a lot of wiki work, I will say that it is a bit frustrating that Brandon isn't giving us like a default Radiant, because like all of our main Radiant characters have some extra nonsense going on with them. Because like even back in Mistborn, we had like Kelsier to show us what like a standard Mistborn looks like, right? So that's why we know that some of the things that Vin can do are, protagonist nonsense. And so we could really use like, and meanwhile, our Knights Radiant, ladies and gentlemen, Kaladin has the special like Son of Tanavast thing, whatever's going on there.
Whatever that means.
Shallan has 2 spren. Dalinar has a special connection. He's a bondsmith, so that's already.
Bondsmiths are weird.
Yeah.
Navani also.
Same for Navani. Renarin has a corrupted spren. Sigzil, we know he's going to change orders in the future.
Yeah, that has the whole dying and like reliving and like stapled life
and Nightblood. Venli is a singer.
Lift has
Shalash and Gon are herald. Actually, I think
Liv
Jasna might be the
lifelike thing.
I think Jasna might be the most normal Knight Radiant we have.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's been at it the longest out of all the...
We're not forgetting our king and savior, Dami.
That was him.
but yeah.
But you also don't know anything about Dami or about the stone words.
Right. But yeah, actually, Jasna is the one who got it earliest of all of our protagonists. So like, we don't really have a baseline Radiant to compare everyone against. But yeah, that's a minor quibble. Speaking of like Shallan and fighting and such, of course, Adolin is part of those chapters.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's adorable. I love Adolin so much. It's just fantastic.
And I also really like their relationship still. Like, I think when we did Rhythm of Previews, we talked about this a lot actually, but yeah, I really like how they feel like they are not made for each other, but like they go along well, and like they
are supportive.
Really supportive of each other, and just the way Shallan describes Adolin is like really cute all the time. And like, oh, he's such a goofer. When like she does the illusion of like him and Gallant, and she says like, oh, Gallant was a little off maybe, but Adolin like was perfect, or like she could do in her sleep or something like that.
Yeah, and she does but because she still has those issues with separating truth from reality, or like being afraid that she doesn't see reality, and it is lovely to see Adolin like supporting her and helping her figure out like, no, this is real, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
So much like Kaladin, Shallan still isn't. She's not like cured just because Vale is no longer a separate persona.
I think, speaking briefly about this in general, like I really liked how her altars flowed in these chapters. Like it wasn't like, and now Radiant takes over, and you like I had to pay attention to see when Radiant would take over, and like because she would use the pros would use Radiant as the name, and she would of course talk different, but like it wasn't jarring to read it. It flowed really nicely, and I think that's a really good progression and like a good way to treat altars and everything. Like I don't know how it is to have an altar and like how that flows, I guess, but it reads really nicely, I guess.
Yeah, right. Radiant, I really like Radiant. Of the Shallans, Radiant is my favorite. So yeah, it is nice to see her be very present in those chapters, and her being like the pragmatic version. And now that Shallan can do physical illusion, she and Radiant can be out and about at the same time. Shallan brings an entire crowd with her at this point. Like there's Radiant, there's Pattern, there's Testament. She's an entire party by herself.
And a lot of times she's with Adolin. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Adolin brings Maya.
Yeah.
And Gallant.
Yeah, and maybe more because like we do get this lovely scene at like near the end of their time in the cognitive realm where they meet the music spren, and one of the music spren, it's obviously the one that used to be bonded to Shoreblood, which I don't know. Maybe some of our readers have forgotten because it's been years, but Adolin's first Reshadium was Shoreblood, and Shoreblood died at the end of Wars of Radiance.
Something I will never forget because who's that cosmic character and getting the wrong horse.
So that was just lovely.
Mm-hmm.
I will say just one little thing on the horses. I have questions, Brandon. As somebody who's read all my life, there's some things that I've questioned. First of all, how is Gallant carrying that much? Like, I know he's a Reshadium, and Reshadium are bigger in magic, but I've written a semi-Percheron. I think a Reshadium wouldn't be that much bigger than what a draft horse is, like, in the real world, right? How in the world is he carrying so many swords and bags and Adolin? And then Shallan offered for Kalak to ride double with Adolin. No, that's way too much. Sorry. Or like riding double, like unless it's like a little child, can be really dangerous for horses. And I don't think Reshadium's being magic fixes that.
I think the magic fix it.
It just bothers me.
I'm sure, yeah, but I think like
so much.
We can always just assume that like Shallan doesn't know crap about horses.
True. I mean,
and, like
true.
she's like, Kalak, you can totally ride doubles with Adolin, and then imagine if Kalak said yes, and they go to Adolin, it's like Adolin just goes no.
Yeah, true. And also the other thing was like Shallan talking about like Adolin like not even needing to use the reins, and like he can guide Gallant like just with his knees. Most accomplished riders are able to do that. I've done jumping with no reins. It's a ton of fun. It's not a unique thing to Reshadium. Like people can do it. It's very normal.
I think just I don't know. Like I am not a rider. Can you do everything with a horse with just your knees, or is there like? Because I feel like it was my hint at like Reshadium being really intelligent, and so like you mostly don't need to really guide them that much. So I think that is what it's getting at.
I definitely think it would be significantly easier with a Reshadium because they are that more intelligent. But even when you're like normally writing, like a lot of your like cues would be like with your legs and your seat. And like say, I don't know. I mean, I never did this because I didn't do dressage, but like flying changes and all that, like that's all just like your heels and the way you are putting your legs, and you don't need like the reins necessarily to do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And especially like experienced riders, like Adolin has been riding his whole life. Like even on a non-Reshadium, I think you'd be able to do it. I mean, reins make it easier, but they're not absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
And also it's a ton of fun to like just to jump and not like use the rein.
Finally, I think it might have been mentioned in the like words of Brandon before, but we finally do get like a confirmation that Reshadium bond with the music spren.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is interesting because it feels like the connection isn't just like these are two creatures working together, and more like this is one creature in two parts, because we have like Gallant. Shallan mentioned like a few times that Gallant looks like he's used to this flying movement, which would be the music spren being used to that because that's how they move. And we also have like Shoreblood's music spren acting like Shoreblood, like recognizing Adolin in the same way.
Yeah. I wonder whether
it is interesting.
Yeah, whether that is like foreshadowing a little bit what a fifth order radiant might be like, where like they and their spren almost like the spirit webs become so merged at this point that they are more directly linked, and so would share some of those same experiences. Maybe I feel like that would be the natural progression of the bond at that point, that you would like become so connected that you might as well be the same person, but not really. I don't know.
Actually, do we ever, because we have one example in the books right now of like the 5th level Radiant, and that's Nail. So do we, remind me, do we ever see Nail with Nail's Spren?
Yeah, but
and again,
Spren,
Skybreaker Spren are...
Yeah, High Spren are like difficult
true,
because,
Yeah, so this is once more the problem of Brandon not giving us a default generic Radiant to compare it to.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did love those scenes with Gallant. Like,
yeah,
the sheer joy at like just galloping in the air and flying and Adolin's relationship with that horse. I was constantly going like, yes, love that horse. And also kind of like it's that kind of like close relationship and almost like being able to read each other's minds that I think so many writers like dream of, because sometimes even as experienced as you are, you can't read a horse's mind. And I think that that's one really nice thing about the Rishadium is that it seems like much more near to like something like that than you can do in real life. And I think it's so cool.
I think like mechanically that is then that the human sort of gets let into the bond a little bit between the Spren and the horse, and so like you technically get a triple like I don't know.
Like a three-way bond.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because like we do know that like you can just, it's not like any person who can ride a Rishadium. They do have to be chosen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I am glad that we are getting more Rishadium lore, because it feels like they've been a little bit neglected. The past 2 books, like Gallant was still there, but more in the background. So maybe we'll get more interesting stuff now that Adolin insisted on taking on like shipping the horse by air.
I guess there haven't been much opportunities for characters to ride anywhere, right? In the last few books, that the trek across Shadesmar was one, but this was a lot of boat riding as well, so not much riding there. And otherwise, people have mostly stayed either in Urithiru or have flown around. So like, I guess we have horses, but cool. Yeah, we have horses.
It would be very funny if, like, the book, somewhere like during the book, Gallant just learns to fly.
Maybe
just in the just by himself in the physical realm, and like Adolin just gets to have like basically a wingless Pegasus to travel around.
Would be great. 10 out of 10.
The next Windrunner, a horse.
Yeah, that's one of the Windrunners Spren that like left lasting integrity, decided to bond with Gallant instead of with a person.
Yeah. And that was a really nice detail, by the way, that like Shallan, when all the Windrunners or the Honor Spren all come and like get ready to leave for the physical realm to bond people, and like she notices it's only 12, and like Cynthia isn't there, who was her guide a little bit around lasting integrity. And then in the next Kaladin chapter, or some Kaladin chapter, we see when he visits Leighton, the quartermaster, and then Debit is followed by Lucynthia because she's already gone a day ahead and like has already started bonding someone, which is like really nice detail.
Oh, I missed that. I didn't notice that.
It's really nice.
Yeah, I only noticed it on reread as well because like I forgot in the week between that this was a thing, right? So it helps to reread these chapters and not have a week in between.
I noticed when people pointed it out in chat.
Yeah, assumed that people noticed this before because I'm just not that observed a lot of the time. Yeah.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, no, I didn't notice on the reread.
You are ahead of me here
because of chat.
And like I said, it helps like because it was immediately before, but a week in between when the chapters got released, right? So like you had forgotten about that one-off name at that point, but yeah. It was really, really nice detail.
Do we want to talk about the Deadeyes a bit? Because like Maya has definitely been getting more like interactive and just like a little bit like more chill and like used to being around people. And Testament is hanging around as well, even if she's like not as far as Maya is.
as a big Maya fan, I am very happy to get more Maya screen
Right.
time. Especially like I am liking where her personality is settling, that she's more like of a warrior spren, so to put it. I remember back in Oathbringer, I was really hoping she was like this warrior kind of spren, and then Rhythm of War kind of confirmed it with how she worked with Adolin to rescue Notum, and we are getting continuation on that. And I am looking forward to seeing more of warrior spren Maya.
Yeah.
Especially because like the other like two main spren, Pattern and Syl, are like so quirky and so different, and they're a very different like archetype. I think it's cool to see Maya be like different from them and be more like stoic and controlled and like more of a warrior type spren, like you were saying.
And I like that we got in general a little bit more insight into what other spren behave like, because we had like this one Manchu and honor spren who liked numbers, and that was really boring to Syl, or that
Lucintia is also like very like uptight.
You know, Mosaic, who's like Vatha's spren. Vatha is his name, right?
I think it's Vatha's spren. I don't know.
That she is also different than Pattern, right? Not all cryptics are the same, so I really like seeing some diversity in the spren as well, because so far they mostly have like, we only got the main character's spren, so yeah, we don't know how the others behave, and I really like this diversity.
Yeah, speaking of like Deadites, we also finally got an answer to the mystery of what happened to all these old Radiant Blades.
Yes.
Oh my god, yes, finally.
And it's really sad.
So,
like,
it's kind of both very
underwhelming.
It's sad, but also I wouldn't say underwhelming. It's like a lot simpler than I was expecting.
Yeah, true.
Because like it's not that like nobody's hoarding those blades. They're not like being collected by some secret society that's going to take them over with the power of 1,000 Shardbearers. It's just they got lost and buried in the creme, and eventually they just kind of faded.
Disappear. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of the final death in Coco, and like the way it generally works in the Pixar theory, where like if everyone forgets about like this one thing, then it fades because there's no memory to keep it alive. I don't know, kind of made that connection just now, and it makes a lot of sense considering like the way intent and perception like is so correlated to sprint and the cognitive shadows and all that.
Yeah, the reason it's sad is that like these sprint are then just stuck in the Deadeye state without like. Would be a lot harder for somebody to like pick up the blade, bond it, and then do what Aiden did for Maya and like revive or start the process of reviving them, because you have to first find them in the cognitive realm, then I don't know, start a bond there, which how would you do that, right?
You can't really bring them over to the physical realm because like that's a decision that the sprint has to make. Unless you're Ishar, then I guess you can just Ishar a spren into the physical realm.
What if Ishar's experiments have to do with the Deadeyes? That he tries to fix them somehow?
Interesting.
Like if he's aware that they are stuck in the cognitive realm, he will maybe tries to bring them over. And
I think we know that he's using a living spren for it, because like that's why they were trying to kidnap Notum, right? I mean, I guess that the implication at least is that they were going to. And I think there's also, I think in the Rhythm of War, Stormfather recognizes one of the spren that they find in the tents, one of the like physicalized spren.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
I believe this is how we learn that this is what Ishar is doing, that Stormfather recognizes one of the spren.
Okay,
and he doesn't mention anything about it being a Deadeye.
Yeah. I mean,
so
I thought about Notum as well, like it wouldn't make sense why they would use a like living spren. I guess if the spren survived the process, they then could at least ask it what it was like. Because then I wouldn't give you an answer, but yeah. Yeah, I guess not.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not going to use it on Deadeyes, but like
it's not
he
the
seems
purpose.
to be using it.
Yeah,
he seems to be using it primarily on the living spren. There's like the herald stuff like happening in the background of these chapters, but we also do get Kalag front and center, at least at the very beginning. And I admit it's a bit of a pity that he's not coming along because he's funny and like he's a fun character.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would be nice.
I just hope Keltier doesn't get to him.
Yeah, true. And now he has a little friend, right? So he can like call people.
Yeah, these the little Seon that has the same name as me.
Yeah.
It's still confusing to read.
I imagine. Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so Kalag, obviously, like he was around for Bado Mishram. Yeah, so that's interesting that like the heralds were not like officially around back after they left. They abandoned the Oath Pact. But he was like close enough that he was on site when Bado Mishram was
trapped. Yeah, which like the spiritual realm, like I know that this came out in one of the later readings, and so we've talked about this. I still kind of can't get my mind around it. Yeah. Like the spiritual realm, how come they are traveling into the spiritual realm? Just 2 books ago was the first time we were truly traveling into Shadesmar. I didn't expect the spiritual to be a thing until like Era 4 at least.
And I guess for our viewers, we will hopefully link this in the description somewhere or like in a card on YouTube so you can find our discussion of that, because I don't think we want to dive too deep into this.
Yeah.
Because we already talked a lot about this.
It already.
I don't remember what the spiritual realm earlier discussion was, but I am very curious to see how Brandon's going to show people being
that was a big part of it.
Yeah, because like our visits to the spiritual realm so far have been like visions, pretty much only. Plus like stuff like how in Mistborn some characters exist in spiritual realm for some periods of time. And even then, like we don't really get so much spiritual realm as much as them watching the physical realm from the spiritual. I'll be curious to see how Brandon's going to present being in this realm that is supposed to be so alien and infinite, and even gods don't understand it.
Yeah.
And like speaking of, I'm really curious what's going to happen with Bado Mishram, because we got that like tiny bit of dialogue. I don't know if anybody can quote it because
she seems friendly.
Yeah, she calls them all kinds of nasty words.
Very different than how Kalag depicted her, you know, and like talking about
she's been imprisoned.
I've got
it makes absolute sense.
I've got the quote: "I will kill you. I will burn everything you love. I will exact vengeance in a river of blood. I will rampage across this world until not a single human remains drawing breath. Betrayers, thieves, monsters. I will send you back to the flames from whence you..." And then she gets cut off because Adilyn slams her sword into the face that forms out of the beads.
Like I said, very friendly, very nice. I'm sure negotiations with her will go well, and I'm sure we can release her with no negative consequences.
And I'm sure Eric is going to be very happy about all of it.
Obviously, I do wonder if there is something weird going on with this like attitude she's having, like, because we know that spiritual realm is kind of a place a little out of time. So I wonder if maybe what we are getting of Bado Mishram is not her as she is right now, but like maybe we will be getting flashes of her from different periods of time. Like maybe this was Bado Mishram during the False Desolation.
Maybe, yeah.
I like that idea. It's just insane that Shallan can tap into fortune and like get these like visions and like draw Bado Mishram. And it's in like there are a couple of drawings like linked in the preview chapters. And like you see the little face. Yes, they're great. Although it's funny that half of these are things we've commissioned already.
Yes.
I would still say that our version of cognitive Urihiro is better.
I like ours more. Yeah, for sure. But then you see this like little face like in the corner or like at one side. And like that's what Bado Mishram looks like. The fact that Shallan, I don't know if it's because of the 2 bonds, if it's protagonist powers, like what it is. Maybe if the Chana Devar theory is true, maybe it's that. I don't know. I think it's insane that she can tap into future like this. I am really curious to see where it goes, really.
Kalak seems to think it's because of the double bond, right? He says something like,
Yeah.
when a bond is imbricated like that. Funny word.
Which word of the day? Imbricate. Overlap or close to overlap.
Yes. Also phantodic, but that is not an actual English word. That is something that is apparently existed in the some Roshan language before, but not anymore.
So, I mean, yeah, I think that's it. We probably missed stuff.
Yeah.
But just before we go to who's that Cosmere character, maybe we get interludes next week. Maybe we just go straight to day 2. But do we have any predictions of like POVs that could be like for day 2? I mean, I'm hoping we get that instead of Kaladin personally, as like they start on their journey.
Have to, I think, because he's a flashback character, and we need like the way those have been done historically is like something triggers them in the like present day for the character, and then we get a flashback. So I feel like we have to get Seth.
I am guessing like the arrival in Shinovar is going to be like this triggering moment for the flashbacks. But yeah, I am really hoping for Zeph POVs, and I'm also hoping for Dalinar.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And for Yasna, because we know we are getting Yasna POVs at some point, because we got this one reading where Hoyt realizes that he's missing memories, and that was from Yasna's POV.
Yeah.
And that can't be too much like later. First of all, because Brandon did it as a reading. But second of all, because I don't think Hoyt would take that much longer than like a day or two to realize he's missing memories.
He's talked about it. That is something we didn't talk about in the Kaladin section, but yeah, he talks about that he feels something is wrong. So like that is definitely referring to that as well, that he's figuring it out. So I agree there.
We definitely also need a POV of one of the like Shadowlin couple.
Maybe
because,
Adolin.
Because we do have like basically 3 plots set up here. We have the trip to Shinovar, we have the hunt for Bado Mishram, and we have the whole situation with Azimir and the imminent invasion of Azimir. So we do need like POV characters for all 3 of these plots, unless one of them like takes a back burner for a day.
Yeah, and I hope we get more than 2 POV characters for day 2 and it continues expanding, because I like that variety.
Yeah, I think we have to, basically. And I think Adolin might be a good candidate as well, because like Dalinar sounded like he wanted to talk to his son about like whatever they have going on, right? So it might make sense that like it's on his mind, and so like we will see that from Adolin's perspective maybe, and like because we need to know how he feels about what his dad has done. So I think that would make sense.
I mean, then again, we never did get like his POV of him finding out that his dad killed his mom. So Brandon may very well just shelve this in favor of more
Saladin is what we're going to get.
I didn't want to say it because like I don't hate Saladin shippers. I am happy for you, Saladin shippers. I'm just not one of you.
Absolutely. I think it has already been a lot, so we can take a little bit of a pause. And
okay, I guess it's time for who's that Cosmere character then.
This character is from Rasarr.
Menace. Cheyenne.
Tom.
Braze.
Hoyt in drag on a horse. It's time for Who's That Cosmere Character?
Welcome to Who's That Cosmere Character, the game show where you send in 5 clues and a character at wtcc at 17thshard.com. I read each of the clues aloud, and our panelists have a chance to guess who's that Cosmere character. Okay, the first one was sent in by Jared.
Hi. Hello, Jared.
Hello.
Clue number 1. This character is not a POV character.
No Hadon.
It's neither of those 2. Clue number 2. This character hides their true identity.
Okay, me and my terrible memory for names.
You could describe it. I'm not.
The guy from Elantris who's always like Kolo, Raoden's Elantrian body. Galadon.
Galadon?
Yes.
It's not Galadon.
And
Thank you.
keeping with the spirit of not knowing the character's name, I think it starts with an N, but it's Chris's fiance, who she goes to.
Oh, what's his name? I forgot
Yeah,
what his name.
something with N, I
It's
think.
not him, but I'm gonna look up his name.
Yeah, and I think N is like his like code or cover up name starts with an N, but I might also be misremembering that. Whoever that guy is.
Gevalden, that was his name. And he
Yes.
was, his secret identity was Nilto, so that was the N.
Yes.
There we go. Okay.
I'm very good at
yeah, it's not
remembering
him.
names. Yeah, cool.
Clue number 3. This character is a world hopper.
Felt?
It's not spelled.
Oh, what's his name?
Classic look at the bookshelves move.
No, I don't have any bookshelves in here, so I cannot do that actually.
No, see, it's funny because I do that like when I'm not at home and I don't have my bookshelves, that I still look at a bookshelf even if it's not.
I just look around the room
Like
to
or the Cosmere books.
get inspiration from, I don't know, my windows. I don't know. What's his name? Oh dear.
Which one?
The ferrochemist who is a steward at the Colon Palace, who then later on gets killed and who has the Avia.
Gary. Yeah,
Gary,
Gary,
right.
that isn't Gary.
It's Gary. It's Gary, yes.
So is it
It's not
the
Gary.
character? Okay, it's not Gary.
Yeah.
It's not Gary. Clue number 4. This character has a job.
Well, I'm glad they're not unemployed.
This character.
I mean, I guess some characters don't have jobs.
Yeah.
A
world
world
hop-
hopper who hides their identity, is not a POV character, and is gainfully employed. Okay, so is it Naz? Nazrilov?
It's not an Oz. Good guess, though.
We don't have. I feel like we don't have that many world toppers, but still too many to like narrow it down completely. Who has a
Yeah,
job?
especially with only 2 people playing.
Yeah,
And, like, not
yeah.
opportunities for guesses.
Has a job and tries to hide their identity. What is a job? Like, if you're a member of the Ghost Bloods, does that count as a job? That is why I'm going to go with code names are stupid.
No, it's not code names.
Okay.
Clue number 5. This character is good with maps. Which is funny because of the Nas guess.
So, okay, so this is not a guess, but like Chris never hides her identity. And she has been like a POV character in White Sun, so she that can be her.
Yeah. Good with maps. I feel like that should immediately give it away, but I have no idea.
Is it like the guy who's like named after Isaac Stewart is not supposed to be like a world
Fantastic
hopper?
Shallan.
No, so that's not my guess.
Yeah, no, he's a Roshan Ardent, I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
so.
he's Roshan.
Or cartographer at any rate. So.
Okay, for lack of a better guess, I forget the name again, but the ghost blood that has the power to control Amberite or Roseite or whatever Brandon is calling it nowadays.
Oh, now I'm forgetting.
The Aether guy from Lost Metal. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm forgetting his name also, but no, it's not him.
Yeah, but okay. Then, okay, it's on me to guess this character, I guess. Good with maps.
Mm-hmm.
And tries to hide their identity, but also a world hopper, not a POV character. And
Has a job.
Has a job, right.
Vasila.
yes,
That was his full name.
has a job. Good with maps. Demu?
No.
Is it Bayan?
It's Masaka,
Oh,
the
of course, Masaka.
Sleepless from Yumi.
Yeah.
Right.
And like
there.
the with maps technically is perfect spatial awareness, but phrasing it that way give it away very easily because it's sleepless. And
I-
Eric was like, change it if you want. I didn't figure
Yeah.
out a better way to say it with maps. So
So I keep forgetting that the secret projects are a thing. So, for like
Yeah.
characters, but it makes a lot of sense to go for has a job. Like the only place where we've really seen people have jobs is technically Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, right? So
Yeah.
it should have given it away, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, I guess like Masaka integrated into Yumi so well, I like
Yeah.
didn't register her mentally as a world hopper.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
True.
Cool. That was those were some good clues.
Yeah.
We were just bad.
Yeah. I like it. Then the second one is our priority queue. You can gain access to that priority queue by being a herald on Patreon. And that's for $10 a month. And we'll read your Who's at Cosmere characters faster that way.
Slightly faster.
Slightly.
The heralds are also sending a lot of
Yeah.
their own Who's That Cosmere characters.
I don't even know how long the normal queue is at this point. So this was sent by Nimish. I hope I pronounced that properly. Clue number 1. And these aren't, this character is a, so
Hello, Numish, by the way.
thank you for being a herald. Clue number 1 just says revealed power.
Has a revealed power. That might be the single least specific Who's That Cosmic character clue of all time. Vin?
No, it's not Vin.
Susebron?
No, it's not Susebron.
Okay.
Clue number 2, Shadowed 9 Mysteries. I will say, this like priority queue is structured like a Ketek would be structured.
Okay. Mhm.
I know.
Oh dear.
So, it's interesting.
I admire the creativity. I am not trusting my ability to figure anything out of it.
Sorry, is it
Shadow
revered or revealed powers?
Revealed.
Okay, good.
revealed powers, shadowed 9 mysteries. Dalinar?
It's not Dalinar.
Shallan?
Although, I mean, good guess, but it's neither of those.
Yeah, I mean, 9 Mysteries is going like unmade for me, but yeah.
Clue number 3, the contentious myths contended.
Yasna?
This is what hell of a... No, it's not Yasna. It's a really good Ketek, honestly.
Real powers. Shadowed 9 Mysteries. What? Xyz?
It's not Axes. Clue number 4, the mysterious 9th shadow.
Syanat?
Not Shanat.
Oh,
Okay, so did you guess or not?
no. The name. I'm trying to think of the name of this unmade. God, I'm so
Which
bad at
one
this.
is it?
It's the one that Azudan first has and then Amaram swallows. The one
Yelignar?
Yelignar.
Yelignar. Yes.
It's not Yelignar.
Okay.
Clue number 5, and there's a bonus clue.
Okay.
Powerful revelation.
Badomishram?
It's not by Abishra.
Powerful revelation. I feel like Syanat was a really good guess, but I guess not.
No, it was a good guess.
Molach.
It's not Moalak.
Yeah, okay.
So bonus clue, it is a reference to a book.
Digonarphis?
Nope.
It's a reference to a book.
In world, I'll say an in-world book, not a...
Hesika.
No. Yeah, it's Hesi from Hesi.
Hesi,
Which
Hesi, not
you were
Hesika.
right on the
Yeah,
money with all the animated.
When you said like in the shadows of the second clue, even remember anymore
Yeah,
what it
Shadow
is.
9 Mysteries.
Yeah, I was like, it's Hessi's Mysteries, or yeah, whatever the book is called.
Yeah,
but,
Mythica.
Mythica, yeah. Thanks. God, I'm so bad at this.
You are doing better than me.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, the Ketek one was tough though. Like,
Yeah. But a really good one, yeah. It's just,
Yeah.
we went more
I
the...
think it was really well written though.
Yeah, good job. Our Herald.
Yeah, so you can find us on 17thshard.com for all the news, discussions, theories, and fun that you could ever want. We have a big Discord, and every Monday we've been getting a lot of discussion on these preview chapters. So if you want to go join, that's there. You can find us on social media, and you can support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Brief announcement. Our next episode will not be in 2 weeks, but 3 weeks. It's going to be releasing October 13th. And it'll be on Dragonsteel Prime. You don't need to read it, but we will be analyzing a lot of the lore and what it means in the modern Cosmere, and there's going to be a lot of thoughts. So stay tuned, I guess. See you next time.
Bye.
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 Caw.